Why is Jim Clyburn wrong?
Thank you. I don't think Jim Clyburn's wrong. I think Joe Biden has been a great president. I think he absolutely grasps what we're fighting for, protecting our democracy, securing the future of our country for our children. I believe we are at a historic moment, an opportune moment, that Joe Biden, who has had a fabulous career, in his 4 years as president, has passed landmark legislation, has the opportunity to pass the torch to the next generation, to, as George Washington did in the first presidential term, say it's time to let those who are ready to lead to a new era take the mantle and move us forward. I think by doing so, President Biden has the opportunity to unite not just the Democratic Party, but I think he would unite the entire country. And it wouldn't be a slog to November 5th, but we would have a sprint to November 5th and a mandate to lead the country for the future.
Well, Congressman, you are one of 19 sitting lawmakers who have expressed this view or a similar one publicly, calling for Biden to drop out. How many have also expressed that view to you in private, even if they're not saying it out loud?
Yeah, I've had a lot of conversations. It's not just with my colleagues. Last week during the holidays, I had the chance. We love parades in Illinois. I marched in 8 parades, walked past probably more than 50,000 people, and had hundreds, if not thousands of people stop me and express their love and admiration for President Biden, but also express the desire that he pass the torch. Coming back to Washington, there was a similar message, not everyone, but many saying that our best chance to win in November, to defeat Donald Trump, who is trying to overthrow an election, undermine our democracy, threaten our Constitution, that the best chance to do that is to unite the party with the next generation leading the charge.
What's the reaction been from Biden supporters in your conference, Congressman, and what have you heard from the Biden campaign and from the White House since you issued your statement?
I haven't heard anything from the Biden campaign. Well, I'll tell you, as the people I represent, the folks at home, I've heard overwhelming. Before I made my announcement, the calls, letters, emails coming in the office were 30-1 calling for President Biden to pass the torch.
Did you give the campaign a heads up?
I did. And since the announcement, I would say it's probably running 100-1 supportive of my position.
Well, Congressman, as you call for Biden to pass the torch, there also is the matter of who that torch is passed to. Are you advocating for Vice President Kamala Harris here or something else? Should this truly be an open convention at the DNC, if that is what you're seeking?
What I'm saying is we have a lot of people who are ready to step forward. President Biden said it beautifully yesterday. Well, he stumbled, but we know what he meant when he said he would not have picked Vice President Harris for the job if he didn't think she could have done it the day they took office. She would be an outstanding choice. We have governors all across the country, from California to Illinois to Delaware and everywhere in between, who have a demonstrated record of accomplishment within their states and working with their legislatures, getting things done. Our bench is both deep and wide, and that's part of what gives me confidence that if President Biden would pass the torch, we have a chance to bring the party together and do something historic on epic proportions.
I know you got a Dear Colleague letter from Hakeem Jeffries earlier today, Congressman, after he met with Joe Biden last night. He expressed, according to the note, the full breadth of insight, heartfelt perspectives and conclusions about the path forward that the caucus has shared in our recent time together. I suspect he relayed your messages, among others, that he's hearing. How's Hakeem Jeffries doing? Is he giving this too much space? Does he need to take a stand on Joe Biden's candidacy now?
Great question. I think Leader Jeffries is doing a remarkable job. Even before we got to this summer, he had big shoes to fill. Speaker Emerita now, Nancy Pelosi, will go down in history as an epic Speaker of the House. And to fill those shoes is no easy task. Speaker Pelosi passed the torch, handed off the baton in a magnificent way. I think there will be books written. There will be students will study the transition from Speaker Pelosi to Leader Jeffries for a long time. And I think Hakeem has moved into that role with confidence, with pride, and holding the caucus together through very difficult times. We had what I call the student council election in January of last year, to the debt limit debate, to the breakdown of the Republican caucus last fall. And here we are today. But Hakim's done a remarkable job.
Well, sir, you speak of holding the caucus together, and yet when you have 19 members, I guess 18, because there is one senator included in that count, saying President Biden needs to step down, and more than 200 others not saying the same, but at least on the appearance level, the caucus doesn't seem to be together. And I wonder how you see the party putting the pieces back together again in time for November, if indeed a torch is passed.
Yeah, I have no doubt we'll put the party will be on the same page. I think what you're seeing now is people going through, checking their own gut, deciding what's best for themselves and the districts they represent. Each of us comes from a different place across the country. What is uniting us, and there's no debate on this, is that Joe Biden's been a remarkable president, that we owe him a great debt of gratitude, literally for saving our democracy 4 years ago, but also for putting us on a course to get through COVID, the Infrastructure and Jobs Act, rebuilding our infrastructure, the Inflation Reduction Act, growing our economy, chips and science, bringing manufacturing back to the United States. That list goes on and on and on. Where the debate is we all know we want to go to the same place. We not only have to defeat Donald Trump, but we have to find a way to continue to move the country forward and to build on the success of the last 4 years of the Biden administration. What's the best way to do that? We are having an active debate, and that's what Democrats do, rather than falling in line. And what we see on the other side is really a cult of personality, and that's the distinction, a very important distinction in our parties.
Whether we're headed for a brokered convention or it is, in fact, Kamala Harris moving forward here with the ticket, Congressman, how much time does Joe Biden have? We're about to go to Milwaukee for the RNC. How much time does he have before the Barry Goldwater moment needs to happen?
Part of the reason I wanted to put my statement out, I pretty much come to my conclusion last weekend. I have a basic philosophy: when you have a conclusion or you think you know the answer, dig a little bit deeper. I wanted to come back to Washington, talk to my colleagues, hear what my constituents had to say, and I did that. The reason I came out yesterday is because I do think time is of the essence. We're less than 4 months away from the election. We need to unite the party. Yeah. Again, if we unite the party, I think we can unite the country. And this is a historic opportunity.